this is my review of Mob Psycho 100. Okay, so this episode was a kind of a homage-ish to It's a Wonderful Life. So, the story of this episode is Mob is transported to a world in his mind that Mogami created. The key difference here, though, is that Mob doesn't have his powers, and none of the positive relationships he has in his life are existent. So, for 6 months in the simulated world, Mob is bullied relentlessly with Minori being the ringleader of the whole thing. So Mob is slowly pushed to his breaking point, while Mogami points out his ideals for the world to him subconsciously, while also explaining why he decided to become an evil spirit. So Mogami is a guy who kind of doesn't like the world very much. That's been established. He's been established to hate the world just a little bit. He also explains that the reason he came to dislike the world is because his mom was already established to be very sick, and even though he took several jobs, some of which weren't exactly morally upstanding, to get where the money he needed to pay for her medical bills, she died anyway, without any real known cause. However, shortly after she died, she became an evil spirit, and he found out the truth. Apparently, all that murdering he did caused all of the vengeful spirits from those people to just coalesce around his mother, and then she died, and she started blaming him for it. So, not surprisingly, that broke him. And since then, he started resenting the world, believing that the world was a cruel place, full of evil and danger and all that, and believed that the only way to save it was to use his powers to change the world for the better, and is pushing Mob to do the same thing as well. Eventually, Mob does break and attack some of the bullies that are bullying him. Finally snapping, pointing out that he didn't do anything to them, yet they bullied him anyway. And he's finally been pushed to his breaking point. At which point, Dimple decides to check up on him at Reagan's request, because Reagan and Dimple kind of come to a mutual understanding that they need to have more faith in Mob, while also making it kind of clear to themselves and not really to each other that they both want to use Mob for as long as possible. So they kind of just want to keep Mob in their life so that they can use him for their own personal things. But Mob has changed a lot, so I don't imagine that working out all too well for them. So Dimple goes in to try and get Mob to snap out of it, believing that Mob has gotten stuck and is starting to be manipulated by Mogami's influence. And while he struggles at first, it's with Matsuo's unseen influence that he's suddenly able to get through the barrier and get inside of Minori's head so he can help Mob confront Mogami. So he does. She shows up, and just as he sees Mob being bullied and almost killed, and decides to intervene, snapping Mob out of it and reminding him of who he is. And also, it should be noted during the scene that this fictional Minori starts crying and breaking down emotionally after seeing how close she is to actually getting hurt and actually getting seriously injured. So if Dimple hadn't gotten involved, Mob probably would have done some bad things to her instead of trying to save her like he was initially supposed to do. But anyway, snap him out of it, Dimple does, and Mob realizes that this isn't actually the real world, realizes that he's in a simulated world, and then thanks Dimple for opening his eyes. However, Mogami points out that even if Mob has regained his memories, the past 6 months that he spent in the simulated world will have changed him forever. And sure enough, Mob agrees with him. He points out that he now sees the world in a different light, pointing out that yes, he realizes that not everybody is fortunate to have people around them, but that just means he has to be more thankful to the people he does have around them who are a positive influence on his life. So he thanks Mogami for that. At which point Mogami decides to finish off Mob using all of the evil spirits he's coalesced, And it's revealed that that all the people in the simulated world are in fact evil spirits that Mogami has accumulated over the years into his own body. So Mob starts facing off against the evil spirits, and in the process realizes that he can use his powers to save people, and decides to use them to save Minori. And after doing so, begins to exorcise several of the evil spirits, and also manages to defeat Mogami. But without Mogami's at his full power, these evil spirits kind of go on a rampage and start destroying everything around them. So Mob has to fend them off and tells Dimple to leave so that while he fends off the evil spirits. However, during this sequence, Mob, despite being incredibly powerful and in his 100% mode, he does eventually falter and does eventually fail and falls unconscious. But unfortunately for Mogami, triple question mark comes out to play and decimates the rest of the evil spirits. And then Mob wakes up. So yeah, apparently triple question mark could just manifest itself as part of inside of Mob's psyche as well as his physical form. So it's established that this might be a different, and it is established that it's a different entity to Mob entirely, but it could be an extension of his powers. Like, it could be something related to his powers. We're not entirely sure what at this stage, but we do know it is an extension of his powers at the very least. So after waking up, Mob asks what happened to Minori, and sure enough goes to check on her. However, Mogami flies out of Minori, says that Mob has made his choice and that he'll see him around. However, Matsuo responds that he isn't going anywhere and sucks Mogami into one of his little jars, and then thanks them for the experience, and then leaves. And then Reagan remarks that he didn't even know he was there. At which point Minori wakes up and realizes that she had been awful to Mob in the other world, and also realizes that she is indeed an awful person, just like in the real world, in the alternative world, and apologizes profusely to Mob, and Mob says it's okay, pointing out that she can change for the better because she's now met him, and he knows from personal experience that people can change for the better by the people they meet. Pointing out that he's fortunate enough to have met people in his life, and is glad that the two of them have met. And this situation is what prompts Minori's dad to actually make a donation to the Psycho Helmet cult. So the Psycho Helmet cult has kind of just been chugging along, trying to get their own stuff going for a while. But after finding out that Mob had exorcised his daughter when no other professional psychic could, he begins to realize that maybe this guy showed up without warning and just kind of left. At which point he starts strolling around trying to figure out who this guy is, and it comes across the Psycho Helmet cult and donates them to him. So meanwhile, Mob, Reagan, and Dimple go back to their usual antics, with Reagan pointing out that Mogami got consumed by his own power, and that Mob should continue to work for him so that doesn't happen to him. Although, let's be honest, Reagan just wants to continue to manipulate Mob into doing what he wants still, just a little bit more. But yeah, it's clear. But yeah, that's how the episode ends, with Psycho Helmet cult getting a little donation from Minori's dad. So now we're going to see how that plays out. I don't imagine it's going to play out very well, but who knows. But yeah, this episode overall was just interesting. I probably didn't do it justice because I'm not very good at quoting things, but this episode was great. It was one of those episodes where it's like, Mob finally realized he can use his powers to help people rather than hurt them. He can save people using his powers, and believes himself to now be a superhero. I mean, he's probably never going to use his powers on people, but he is probably going to use them to help people out in the future, and try to help people who are less fortunate than himself. So, yeah, that's mainly what the message was. Mob learned from Mogami's example not to let the world consume him and let his own power consume him. and instead use his power to branch out and help other people. And that's an interesting note to leave the episode on. So, if you guys have seen this episode of Mob Psycho 100, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also check out my Patreon in the description below as well if you want to help support the show. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that are my way of saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. Again, only a couple bucks a month. Really helps me out, so help support me, and I'll help support you guys in turn. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!